The image that Streisand has of herself isn't always how other people see her. She has her share of critics, and tonight she will answer them. She'll also look back and see the painful memories that still haunt her and what's in her future. More of Barbra Streisand coming up.
All the luckiest people.
2020 continues. Once again, Hugh Downs.
Continuing Barbara's interview with Barbara, few people talk about Barbra Streisand without saying that she has a difficult personality. And yet, for the most part, she's worked with the same people throughout her career. She's had a stable private life. She's never abused drugs or alcohol, hasn't had a string of marriages, and is surrounded by lifelong friends. Now, true, she wants it all to produce, direct, and star. But so do many men in the business. So why is she singled out for criticism? Streisand has her own explanation of that.
A man is forceful, a woman is pushy. A man is assertive, she's aggressive. He strategizes, she manipulates. He shows leadership, she's controlling. He's committed, she's obsessed. It's been said that a man's reach should exceed his grasp. Why can't that be true for a woman?
Let me talk about some of the adjectives that one reads about again and again. Controlling. Obsessive. Yeah.
So boring.
Yes. Okay. But A is
Isn't
true,
it fashionable,
and B, yeah,
fashionable to be controlling these days, no? You see, I don't find them insulting. I find it a compliment. My son was very articulate in a magazine about me. He was saying something about, I don't understand why my mother's wanting things to be right is a criticism. Why? Because she cares. Is that something wrong?
But Barbara, you are controlling. It does matter to you.
It does matter to me. I think that because I can't control life, I can't control people, I can control my art. When I'm making a movie, and I have a very specific idea of how it should be, let's say in Prince of Tides, I had all kinds of a very difficult camera setup to try to get the sun at the same time as the moon. So there were days we were filming in the camera, I was up to my pupik, as they say. That's my belly button, in English. You know,
you sound like the old Barbara 20 years ago.
I am the old Barbara, and I'm the new Barbara. I'm all the Barbaras. And then I couldn't get this shot, you know, and then I said, well, let's see what the universe is presenting. Let me use what is. And then all of a sudden, I remember just thinking, please, there was no sun out. There was no sunset. And I just said, just let me have a little sunset. I'll give up this other thing. And I just sort of prayed very hard. And all of a sudden, the sun emerged out behind the clouds, and we had this most beautiful shot. It was a gift.
Are you easier on yourself? I mean, you're so hard on yourself, and you're sometimes very hard on others in your desire to have it just right.
Let me say this, I have a long way to go. I have a lot to learn. I want to feel like I've got to help better the world in some way. I've got to be of service, because this enriches my soul. This fills me up. It makes me feel good. But I also know that that I wish I were more compassionate, that I were more loving. I mean, if we could only love thy neighbor as thyself, if that just one thought could be adhered to, I mean, wouldn't this world be a much better place? Like, we cannot change the world. It's such an overwhelming feat. But yet, by changing ourselves, in this, each of us in a very small way, we change the world.
When you talk about love and love in general, do you want at this point in your life to be married? Is that something
you know,
that
why do you
think
keep
about?
asking me this question?
Because, you know, it's
You
the
asked
kind of
me
thing
this
that I
in
know people want to know. I ask you every time I see you.
You asked.
And you haven't. You had one marriage when you were very young. And
Right.
people want to know about that. People who care about you want to know a little about you. You know that.
Because it's, I think all people, including me, want to connect.
So the answer is yes, maybe.
No, there's not a maybe.
The answer is
the
yes.
answer is, of course. I believe in marriage, in the institution of marriage.
You've waited a long time.
Hasn't been right yet.
Some say that Streisand has always been looking for her father, who died when she was just a baby. Her mother remarried when Barbara was about 7 years old to a man who virtually ignored the young child. The lack of a male figure in her life is something Streisand has explored in various films. Part of also what you have, it seems to me, been talking about in the letting go is the dealing with the past.
Mm-hmm.
And you've talked a good deal about the fact that your father died when you were
15 months.
15 months. Do you think you'd be a very different woman had he lived?
Oh, sure.
How?
I might not have been an artist. I might not have had the need to express myself, to live in my imagination, and I might have had a whole other life.
What you're saying is that if he had been there to nourish you so that you didn't have to live within yourself and prove yourself, this kind of drive might not have been there. You would have been a different girl.
Probably. You see, because I felt very unseen as a child, unlistened to, you know, I just never feel like I was paid any attention.
Your mother didn't give you that either.
I don't want to cause my mother any pain. My mother's going to be 85 years old. And, you know, in a sense, she did the best she could. And without her pushing me into, let's say, the school system, it might not have sparked this rebellion inside of me to do something the opposite. So in a way, you know, we are the products of our childhood.
Have you come to peace with your stepfather, who never knew you were there, to whom you said to me 8 years ago, I never had a conversation with?
Is that on your show?
Mm-hmm.
I never had a conversation, I don't know.
Did your stepfather live to see you a success?
It's interesting because I was in Funny Girl. I think I was 21 or 22 years old. I hadn't seen him. He and my mother separated when I was 13. I heard he was coming to see me in Funny Girl. And I did the performance for my stepfather. And he sent me a basket of candies that I guess it was 2 years ago, I threw out the jar. I said, why am I keeping this from this man?
Did he ever say anything to you? He say you're wonderful?
I don't remember words like that.
But for 2 years you kept, for 20 years you kept his candy. Not that it had any meaning in your life, not that you cared, not that it mattered,
no.
But for 20 years you kept the candy.
And then just threw it out and said, you know, I don't need this anymore.
Is there anything that you want to do that you haven't?
Oh,
the
there are lots of
acting is
things.
there, the
Sure.
singing is there.
Sure. I'd like to direct a Broadway play. I also love the classics. I'd still love to do sometime Strindberg, Chekhov, Ibsen, Shakespeare. All the things I loved as a child, as a 15, 16-year-old young actress who, you know, knew exactly how I wanted to play Romeo and Juliet. Well, now I'll get to direct someone else in it, but with my concept of how it should be played.
That tough question. How do you want to be remembered? Director? Actress? Singer? What?
All of the above.
What would you like it to say?
She contributed something to the world.
Yeah,
She certainly contributed a lot of pleasure and entertainment.
Why was she so terrified of singing publicly all those years?
The fear of making a mistake, the need to be perfect. She's trying to become much more spiritual. I think you can hear it in what she says. And when she says, I'm trying to let go and let God, she still tries to control, but she's trying to give that up and reach out.
Might that change things? She said she hadn't found the right man yet to remarry. Might that change?
Well, she was married to Elliot Gould when she was very young. They have a grown son, Jason, whom they're both very devoted to. There have been rumors that she's been involved with the tennis player, Andre Agassi. She says they're just great friends. And privately, she's very vulnerable. And
maybe she wasn't let well enough alone.
Yeah, and, you know, I hope she does find...
But do you think she really is different now?
She's trying. I mean, she still is the perfectionist. She's still, everything has to be just right. You know, she has that inner ear and that eye. But she's trying, and she is much more interested in the world around her. That's a change.
Interesting personality and a powerhouse talent, of course. Thank you, Barbara.